She fell unconscious by the lake. Behind her, the spirit of broken faces watched and whispered, "May she survive the price." The night had carried her away, but dawn returned her, reborn. When the first pale fingers of sunrise brushed the horizon, Omalicha opened her eyes beside Uhamiri Lake. For a moment, she lay still, unsure if she still belonged to the world of the living. But something felt different. The air around her seemed to pause in reverence, as though even the wind dared not touch her without permission. She rose and walked to the water's edge, and there she saw her reflection. She staggered. The face in the lake was not hers, yet it was. Her skin was now smooth as calabash milk, her eyes wide with ethereal light, framed by lashes thick as broom fronds. Her once rugged hair now parted like streams of midnight silk, her lips blushed with the hue of fresh hibiscus. She had been remade. Omalicha pressed trembling fingers to her cheeks, her chin, her brow. No scar, no trace, no flaw. "This is me?" A voice echoed in her mind, cool, distant, familiar. "Borrowed beauty, mortal child. Borrowed. Never forget." The memory of Adana, spirit of broken faces, flickered within her chest. But before she could dwell, the rustling of dawn creatures urged her away. She wrapped herself in her mother's shawl and hurried back toward Umokwe, each footstep both thrilling and terrifying. As she approached the village path, 2 young boys fetching firewood saw her and froze. "Jesu," one stammered. "Is that a goddess?" Women at the stream turned, clay pots balanced on their heads. One pot slipped and shattered. "Who is she?" another whispered. "A royal bride, a spirit?" Omalicha said nothing. She moved through them like moonlight gliding across water, silent, unsure of how to wear this sudden divinity. Every gaze clung to her like bees to honey. When she reached her compound, her mother, Adazi, stepped out with a broom in hand, then dropped it. "Chim-i, who are you?" Omalicha's lips trembled. "It is I, Mama, your daughter." Adizi gasped, covering her mouth. Tears spilled. "Omalicha? But how? Your face, your face!" Her father came forward slowly, eyes wide, voice cracking. "What blessing has found our home?" Before their questions could form, word spread like dry harmattan fire. By midday, the compound was crowded. Warriors brought palm wine and kolonutes. Young men offered goats, wrappers, and brass armlets. Mothers whispered prayers, hoping to touch her for good fortune. Maidens stared in silent fury, envy coiling behind smiling teeth. Okafor, the wrestler who once mocked her, bowed his head. "I was blind before," he murmured. "Forgive my foolishness." She said nothing. She only looked, with eyes now too deep for simple words. "Her beauty is not human. She walks like mist. She must be chosen by the gods." Children followed her from afar, chanting, "Omalicha, Noamu, beautiful daughter of spirits." The praise poured like rain on dry earth. But in Omalicha's heart 2 truths wrestled. Joy, for at last she was admired. Fear, for she knew this face was not hers to keep. That night, while the village dreamed of her beauty, she lay awake whispering to herself, "Let them love me before the spirits return." The once mocking voices of Umuokwe's maidens now fell silent whenever Omalicha passed. Days ago they mocked her crooked nose, her uneven skin, and the way her eyes seemed too large for her face. But now they whispered in disbelief, Is this truly Omalicha? As she glided through the village square like a goddess recently birthed from the river. Her skin glowed like Oshugo feathers at dawn, smooth and radiant. Her eyes, once swollen from tears, now shone like twin pools of midnight waters, and her gait, slow, regal, measured. Even the ground beneath her feet seemed to honor her. Mothers began hiding their sons. Maidens readjusted their wrappers nervously whenever she drew near. But with every praise, something within Omalicha quietly shifted. The first to grow resentful were adoration, Wanyima, and Uluma, the very girls who once led the moonlight mockeries. They gathered behind the Udara tree, their faces contorted with jealousy. "She's not this beautiful before," Adawara hissed, braiding her hair with force. "Now she walks like she owns the air we breathe." "She has forgotten she was once dust beneath our sandals," Uluma added bitterly. "Let us see if beauty can buy her character." Their envy slowly fermented, seeking cracks to exploit, and Omalicha, drunk on admiration, unknowingly offered them plenty. She began avoiding the palm oil sellers who once allowed her to rest in their huts. She no longer joined the younger girls in sweeping the village square at dawn. When Mama Ekema greeted her with blessings, she replied with a nod, barely sparing a smile. Men now gathered like ants to honey. Young warriors, Obifuna, Ifediora, Chukwunidum, came bearing gifts, stringed beads, woven cloth-carved bracelets. She would smile coyly, accepting each, promising nothing, enjoying everything. The elders too watched in silence. "She wears pride like a second skin," murmured Elder Mbachu. "Beauty without a good character is bad," replied Elder Ogadi. But Omalicha heard none of this. For each compliment, her chin rose higher. For every suitor, her feet stepped softer. She began to crave the admiration like one craves air. Her reflection, once her enemy, became her dearest companion. At sunset, she stood by the stream, gazing at herself. She smiled. "They used to laugh," she whispered. "Now they worship." But as the water mirrored her flawless face, a sudden ripple distorted it, reminding her of a voice she was slowly forgetting. Borrowed beauty must one day be returned. She ignored it. For in this new world, humility felt unnecessary, and reflection felt incomplete without praise. The praise of Umokwe continued to swell like a drumbeat at a festival, and Omalicha danced to it without rest. Days passed in admiration, nights in dreams of wealth and marriage. But on the 7th night after her transformation, the wind changed. The air felt heavier, colder, almost watchful. It began at the stream. She had gone to admire her reflection, as was now her secret habit before moonrise. She knelt on the bank, smoothing her wrapper, tilting her head shyly the way maidens do when flirting with their own beauty. But the water did not respond with the usual softness. Instead, the surface shivered, unprovoked. She leaned closer. There she was, perfect. But something was wrong. A thin, pale crack ran down her reflection's cheek. Like a line on a broken pot. She blinked, touched her face. Smooth, untouched. She looked again. The crack widened. Suddenly a whisper. Omalicha. She gasped, stumbling backward. The reflection continued to stare, but now its lips trembled as if trying to speak what she dared not hear. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "It's nothing. A trick of the water." She fled before the water could speak again. That night she refused sleep. She sealed the windows, lit palm oil lamps, and braided her hair with trembling fingers. She dared not look into any mirror, yet she felt watched even in darkness. When cockcrow came, she convinced herself it had been nothing. But signs continued. That evening, as she passed the shrine road, a madwoman named Ioma, the one villagers ignored, suddenly stopped her dance and faced Omalicha directly, eyes wide with clarity. "Return it," the madwoman hissed. Omalicha froze. "What?" "Return what is not yours, before she comes for it herself." Before Omalicha could reply, Ioma burst into laughter and spun away like a broken leaf. Villagers dismissed it as madness, but Omalicha heard truth in the tone. She buried the fear beneath vanity. When Obiafuna brought her fresh kola, she smiled more than ever. When maidens complimented her waist beads, she stood taller, she laughed louder, spoke sweeter, silenced doubt. But each night, the whispers returned, sometimes from water, other times from her shadow, and always calling her name. "Omalicha, remember." She would cover her ears and whisper fiercely, "I will not return it, never. Let the spirits watch me. This beauty is mine now." She believed that saying it aloud could make it true. But deep beneath Uhamiri's lake, Adana, spirit of broken faces, stirred. The sun had barely risen above the palm crowns when the sound of royal talking drums rolled into Umuokwe like thunder. Villagers rushed to the square, dust swirling beneath hurried feet. Something unexpected had arrived, or someone. A royal delegation stood at the entrance of the village, elegant horses, warriors dressed in red eagle feathers, and at their centre, Prince Obidiegwu of Umudim, heir to one of the most powerful kingdoms in the region. Word flew like birds through every compound. The prince seeks the maiden of unmatched beauty. He has heard of Omalicha. For the first time in history, Umuokwe prepared to host royalty, not for war, not for alliance, but for love. When she stepped from her hut wrapped in the softest indigo wrapper, anklets chiming against her ankles, every maiden burned with envy. Their eyes followed every sway of her hips. Her confidence dripped like honey. She wore pride as a crown. The prince's eyes caught her instantly. "Is this she?" he asked, barely breathing. The royal emissary nodded. "Omalicha of Umuokwe, the maiden blessed or cursed by the gods themselves." Obidiegwu descended from his horse and knelt before her. "My name is Obidiegwu, son of King Onwudenjo of Umudim. I have crossed 7 farmlands, passed 6 villages, and turned my back to 14 maidens of noble blood to stand before you. Marry me, Omalicha, and be queen." A gasp rippled through the crowd like wind in raffia palms. Omalicha's chin rose, her eyes shimmered. This was it, the summit of all her dreams. "I shall consider your offer," she replied, graceful and composed. Yet behind her poise, her heart danced. Back in her hut, excitement stole her sleep. She replayed his kneeling over and over, whispering to herself, "Queen Omalicha, Queen of Umudim." But as the moon slid across the thatched roof, a familiar chill returned. The clay mirror beside her bed rattled. She froze, slowly, reluctantly. She turned it toward her face. At first, radiance, but then cracks deeper than before running through both cheeks, across her eyes. And this time, the reflection smiled on its own. "Queen," the reflection whispered, though Omalicha had not moved her lips. "Kai, did you forget? Borrowed beauty is never crowned. It is collected." She threw the mirror to the ground. "No, I will not go back. I will not return what I have taken. Breath trembling, she pressed her hands to her flawless face, as though afraid it would shatter under her touch. Outside, the village sang praises of her fate. Inside, the spirits began their slow approach. The Uhuru festival returned grander than ever, reborn by the tale of Omalicha's miraculous rise. In Umokwe, the drums no longer told stories of war, but of beauty, transformation, and the maiden who captured a prince's heart. Mothers polished their daughters, hoping destiny might now walk their paths too. Omalicha arrived at the village square draped in shimmering red linen, gifted by Prince Obidiegwu, her waist adorned with ivory beads. Maidens sighed with longing. Young men watched with worship. Elders, though silent, exchanged wary glances. That evening, masked dancers stormed the arena, spirits symbolized in swirling raffia and bursting drums. It was the masquerade of reflection, a performance where each mask embodies truth unseen by mortal eyes. Omalicha smiled until she noticed it. One mask, painted white with a single crack down its center, stood still, unmoving. In a second drumbeat, the mask turned toward her. A third drumbeat. The crack spread. She blinked, unsettled. But then came the fourth drumbeat, and the mask shattered. Right there in the dancer's hands. A sudden hush drowned the festival. Even the drums faltered. The dancers fled, terrified, abandoning tradition. All eyes turned to Omalicha. Her throat tightened. Crack. A tiny sound like cola breaking, but it was not cola. It was her bracelet splitting on its own. She trembled. Sweat gathered at her hairline. She reached to brush it away. Blood. A thin dark trickle down her flawless arm. Gasps, screams. Mothers covered their daughters' eyes. Blood, her perfect skin bleeds like clay. She stumbled back, covering her arm. The crack from within the mirror now crawled upon her flesh. No wound, no injury, just blood without cause. And then she heard it. From nowhere, from everywhere. Return it. The wind trembled leaves, torches flickered. Eldam Batshu whispered, "This is no mortal wound. The spirits call back what was stolen." Omalicha panicked. She rushed from the square, ignoring the prince's calls, ignoring her mother's cries. Inside her hut, she tore off her beads and sobbed in silence. "No, I will not return it. I will not go back to ugliness. I'd rather die beautiful." But the mirror on her wall, without being touched, turned itself. Her reflection waited. Only now, it did not move with her. Omalicha, it spoke, voice like bubbling water. Borrowed beauty stains deeper than blood. Return it, or be unmade. She shattered the mirror with a calabash. Silence. Only her heart beat. Only a tear. Only fear.